They have the hard-hitting analysis.
I'm anti-injury, so maybe this won't work out.
Kyler's only playing one tight end this week, so that's probably going to help him out a lot.
They tell it like it is.
That's not what I needed, Grandma Nut.
All right, the hipster fantasy player.
I don't do anything.
Their listeners love them.
Found all your charts boring, to be frank. Caitlin was the star of the show.
They break down all the statistics.
20 points. That doesn't quite add up. Maybe he had 93.
This is the Snick Snack Sports Podcast.
Here we... All right, Snickers, help me out.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to week 2 of the Snick Snack Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. How are you doing today, Nate?
Doing great, Snickers. How are you?
Doing great. Welcome back from the big frog over there, France. How are you doing?
Great. Yeah, I've been missing some football. I did catch the Patriots game last week, but I have been in France for last week. Not in tune with fantasy football as much as I'd like to be. So excited to see this week's games tomorrow. But yeah, the team did not do as I needed to. But I mean, that's one of our themes. We both lost this week again. So let's hope that's not a repeat of last year. But yeah, excited to be back with you for another season of the podcast. And let's jump into it. What were some of the themes from last week?
Yeah, I mean, starting off just with my matchup, I guess Kenny's team went off. I mean, Kenny's always been semi-consistent. Sometimes makes the playoffs, sometimes he doesn't kind of player. But he by far had the highest score last week, and he had Brandon Ayuk on his bench. His team was amazing, and I'm kind of scared of it moving forward. But myself, I feel not too bad losing to the quote-unquote best team. So I'm looking forward to moving forward there. Some other big losses. Matt did not live up to his typical standard and lost to Carson. John beat Kyler. And Nick Adams beat you.
That's right. Yeah, and if we look at the standings here, I mean, I know it's early, so it's just all these 0-1, 1-0 teams. But we had Kenny, we had Katie, John, Kyle, mid-tier Nick, and Carson as the winners this week, getting off to strong starts. And yeah, I mean, you said it. Kenny is 184.5 points. It blew everyone else out of the water. It was actually a really low-scoring week, considering that we have 2 new players in the league, and yet the average scores were actually kind of lower than last year. Because I'm used to a good week being 110 points in my mind. And only 4 teams crossed that with 2 new players.
Yeah, there's something like 15 less touchdowns this week than week 1 of last year. And it was down from the year before as well. So scoring overall is down. But Kenny found a way to obviously squeak through the win there.
Yeah, I mean, you can see just on the transactions that already happened this season, I felt the need to change a lot about my team. Currently, I already have 6 transactions, which leads the league at the moment. Ducky has, you have quite a few, as well as Ducky. But yeah, if we go into some of those box scores, tell us just what caused Kenny's team to be so successful.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at him, obviously Justin Herbert in the big shootout, Christian McCaffrey is going to do his thing, but Devontae Smith had a decent game against the Patriots. We had Calvin Ridley go off against the Colts. He has 2 Jaguars players in a row there. That's pretty cool. But obviously Cowboys defense scored something like 25 points against the Giants for the shutout there.
30.
He's not going to do that every week, but that was, obviously an incredible play on his part.
But I mean, it wasn't even like what was so crazy about it was, I mean, of course, yeah, the Cowboys scored big, but he had Brandon Ayuk on his bench with 31 points. Jordan Addison scored a touchdown on his bench. Michael Pittman did well on his bench. So it's like he was just kind of ridiculous. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell didn't show up in the box score. 9.4 points is pretty mediocre, but I think everyone was kind of excited about him as well.
Yeah.
But if I were you, pretty good about having Anthony Richardson as your backup quarterback right now. I mean, first game in the league, you scored 21 points.
Yeah, he's the 4th best quarterback in the league, I think, last week. But I fell into the same trap I do normally when I have Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. I always have two good quarterbacks on my team, and it's going to be tough moving forward, wondering whether or not to play him or not.
Maybe a good trade candidate later in the season. We'll have to see.
Mm.
But yeah, it wasn't like your team had a bad week. It was probably a league average week. 103 points normally wouldn't say that's great, but like the low scoring.
Right. And I did have a lot of injuries last week. Obviously, we're hoping to come back healthy this week. But
yeah, just to highlight my game as well. I know some weeks we'll be highlighting other teams, but just to start off the season, we had a close game here between me and mid-tier Nick. And we'll see that the punters became instrumental. My punter scored negative points. I think we'll be seeing that a lot, actually, because the punters, I think, are going to be besides defense, the most likely to score negatives because the scoring system is harsh. I was saying I think I was just looking through them. I'm not going to do that now, but one punter scored like 20 points and the rest scored like average of 5. So it's something you can't count on. And what's embarrassing is I lost actually with even Travis Kelce scoring, not playing because Mike also didn't score any points.
right.
Um,
No, what's interesting about your punter, Michael Dixon, is he led the week in punting average, but obviously not net punting average. Kicked them all into the end zone there.
right. Yeah. So that's gonna be one of those ones I think we're all gonna have to get a feel for how exactly that scoring translates to the field performance. I was very pleased with my defensive pick, 18 points. I think he's something like 12 tackles on the day. Got a couple of Romeo Dobbs. I'm really happy about that pickup, which was right before the week. But what about the bet that we had?
Yeah, our bet was who was going to do worse, right? It was either mid-tier Nick or John. It looks like mid-tier Nick scored 98 points, and let's see how many points John scored last week.
Yeah, we can see he scored 118.
So it's starting off the year strong here, 1-0.
Yeah, you started off the year 1-0. For some reason, I mean, John will do this at the beginning of the season, I guess, sometimes, is to actually perform well. I didn't foresee it. Some of his decisions, but now we're like, I guess hindsight's 2020. Looking at his lineup, doesn't look that bad.
No, it doesn't look that bad. Obviously, he had Brees Hall, and which we thought was not going to score a lot of points, and he ended up, having a couple 20-yard carries, and he's going to keep doing better and better now that something else happened there. We'll cover in a minute here.
Yeah. Now, how about just in terms of some of the news from around the NFL? I think there were some obviously very impactful events that happened in terms of injuries. Part of the reason it was so low scoring, I think, because of all these injuries.
Yeah, I mean, let's start Monday night. 4 snaps into his Jets career, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, which, not being a Jets fan and making fan of Jets fans my whole life, I honestly feel bad for Aaron Rodgers and feel bad for Jets fans. That sucks. Obviously, it's not what you want to happen. It looks like they obviously have a good defense, have a good running game, but they have Zach Wilson. So we'll see how that works moving forward here. Last week, injuries also. Mark Andrews didn't play. Christian Watson didn't play. Colts running backs are having a big, injury bug already. But the other big guys, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, obviously on IR, and Kenny Gainwell didn't play this past Thursday night. Puka Nacua, the darling of week 1, is having a hamstring injury. We'll see if he plays week 2 here. And then J.K. Dobbins, aka J.K. 2 legs, back to J.K. 1 legs, unfortunately. That sucks for him as well. I feel really bad making fun of him like that, but we'll see how he can come back stronger. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
and I was fortunate enough to pick up Puka Nacua. We'll talk about that a little more later, but it was actually just his oblique, which is a less serious in my mind than hamstrings. I'm hoping he'll play this week. He's in my starting lineup for the moment. But yeah, a lot of injuries, and then the Aaron Rodgers one, it's not that necessarily anyone's relying on him this season, but all of the other pieces on the team are going to be impacted by that for sure. But now let's start looking ahead at next week. We have a guest in our show today, Kyle was a winner this week. He was a very strong team last year. We're going to have his thoughts on how things are going to be going up ahead. All right, welcome, Kyle.
What's going on, guys?
Hey there, Kyle.
What's going on, Kyle?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Of course, yeah. Wanted to pick a winner of week one, and I know you said you didn't get off to you felt like your team could have done better, but it was really a very low scoring week in general. And congrats on week one win. I
appreciate it. It's a weekly game, so take them when you can get them and move on to next week.
Yeah. Any surprises for let's actually take a look at your team from last week. We haven't talked too much about it yet.
Sure. Basically, really only one player you need to talk about.
Who's that?
Oh, Tyreek Hill, Mr. 50 points.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, 215 yards, 11 catches. That'll do it for you just about every week.
Actually, no, seeing your score 117 is very respectable. I mean, I think that the average is going to be about that this year, would be my guess. But yeah, I can see what you're saying, that besides Tyreek, no one really stood out as a big winner for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lamar sort of disappointed for his first week. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs looked awesome on that Thursday night game, but he only got like, five chances. So I'm excited to see his future the rest of the season, if Detroit starts to give him more work. And then, yeah, with Tyreek Hill, it seems like, any given week he can go off like he did. And, he's talked about wanting to get 2,000 yards this year. So, I mean, based off week one, that might be a low ball right there. So,
yeah, he's on pace for 3,300 yards right now.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that. Yeah. And then my sneaky pickup, my punter, Thomas Morstead for the Jets. I just picked him up last week. I realized I had both Seattle's kicker and punter, so I thought that was pretty counterintuitive. So I dropped the punter and picked up the Jets punter, and now we got Zach Wilson a quarterback. So I feel like a lot more punts are going to be coming my way there. It might be a league winning punter move.
That could be a very good thing or a very bad thing. I don't remember which team my punter is on now, but they punted a lot, and he had negative points because he wasn't.
He kept getting touchbacks.
I was looking at the like everyone else's scores. It seemed like everyone's punter was positive except for one, but I guess you were that one, Nate. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, one person's punter really helped them too. I think someone got like 20 points from their punter, and everyone else was in the range. Like 6 was maybe even the second best punter score I saw.
Yeah, well, off to a little bit of a slow start this week, but we'll pull it together.
Yeah, here, let's look ahead to your next week's matchup. And so you are playing against Carson, generally maybe an easier opponent, but he is projected to win right now.
Yeah, he had Hawkinson go on Thursday night and catch a couple touchdowns. So I knew it was going to be a tough matchup for Madison, going up against that Eagles defensive front. So the fact that he only got 4 points wasn't too surprising. I was hoping maybe he could just, fall into the end zone for a 1-yard touchdown, which if your boy Justin Jefferson there, Snickers, didn't fumble out of the end zone, maybe we could have got. But yeah, no, I don't know if you guys have talked about this earlier in the show. A little interesting. So he has Bijan Robinson in Montgomery. Well, I have Gibbs and playing Tyler Algier in the flex. So it's like he's got the quote-unquote Atlanta starter in Bijan, and I have the Atlanta backup with Algier. But he has the Lions starter with Montgomery. Well, I have the Lions quote-unquote backup with Gibbs. So yeah. I don't know what your bet is this week, but that could have been like a cool, which backup is going to score more points or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Algier last week was definitely a week winner, getting 2 touchdowns and decent amount of yards. But Bijan, I'd take Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs just to split it up the middle there as far as the best athletes go. But that's actually really interesting, seeing how
We
those
haven't,
teams are going to play against each other.
yeah, we haven't talked about our bet yet. So what do you think, Snickers, if we shift it to who has the better starter slash backup scenario? Because that is a really interesting one.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Who would you pick here, Nate? Bijan and Dave, or Jameer and Tyler?
Let's see. The opponents are Green Bay for Atlanta, Seattle for Detroit. I think that I would take the Carson side of this. Actually,
Yeah,
it's close for
that's,
me.
that's not a bad take. I think Jameer is going to get a lot more work this week than he did last week. Obviously, rookie running back first game, you're not going to get 100 carries there. But early season, Tyler Algier, I think, is going to score more than Bijan, and I think Jameer might hopefully overtake Montgomery here. So I'll take Kyle's side here and take those two running backs against your two running backs there.
That's why it's so tough, because Jameer definitely looked like the better running back. I watched that,
It was
and
pretty incredible.
it just didn't have as many carries, but there's every reason for them to give him more.
Yeah, that's a fun, exciting, on the spot bet there.
I didn't mean to blow up your guys' plans. I don't know what your original bet was, but
No, that's
I just
more
more
exciting than our bet here.
threw that out as an interesting fact.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that, Kyle. Last week I'm 1-0 in the bet so far, so I'm a lot better than I was last year.
All right.
Yeah.
No, very nice. And I think that if your team is going to be good this year, Kyle, you're going to need Lamar to be better than it was last year.
Yeah, I think what's his face? Mark Andrews. I think Mark's going to play this week, which would be their top target. Actually, I have Zay Flowers, who I'm playing, who I'm pretty excited for this year. But yeah, hopefully with Andrews back, that offense gets moving a little better, and they put up more points. I mean, even you saw last week with Cincinnati and Burrow, they only put up like 3 or 6 points. So sometimes it takes these teams, a game or 2 or 3 to get into the swing of things. But no, I'm pretty confident with my squad, and even though we're in a little bit of a hole, I think we can make the comeback this week and go to 2-0.
Yeah, looking at your bench, I see Mike Williams, Jahan Dotson, Dalvin Cook. Obviously, those are really good players, but they have tough matchups. So that's pretty good for you. I mean, if you have some depth like that, you're able to just dip in there whenever you want.
PSA to everyone in the league: Mike Williams is on the trading block. That was my least favorite draft pick. When I made it, he's so inconsistent. I think he got hurt again in the first game. So he's trade offers. If anyone wants Mike Williams, just take him. I want him.
I will absolutely take him for free, but I'll look at what I want to give you for him if you want.
Yeah, I don't know if Free's gonna get it done, but something.
I've got a lot of different. I went kind of the didn't punt my wide receivers, but didn't get any stars on my team, and so I may need some more depth there. So we'll have to see how maybe this week pans out, and then try to range for something. So
let's get into our matchups of the week.
Yeah, the matchup I wanted to highlight was actually just looking at Kenny's matchup again, because obviously he was so ridiculous last time. He's already projected 150 points, which is by far the best matchup this week. And so, yeah, the obvious thing to do would be to choose him again. He had Devonta Smith go off. Calvin Ridley could be a huge, a huge value for his draft pick. Brandon Ayuk could as well. So if he continues to hit on those guys, and Jordan Addison down here, all of his wide receivers were just ridiculous values.
I definitely liked his team last week. Obviously, I wish it wasn't facing me, but John's team, like we were saying earlier, does not look that bad. But against Kenny this week, against the powerhouse Kenny, which is something you never thought we'd be saying, and I'm not sure John has too much of a chance.
I think it all depends for me on Breece Hall. They have him projected kind of poorly for what I would expect. I think based on what I was seeing from his from last week, he should be doing better than that. The Jet Talus is a tough defense, but he looks like the starter right now. he's going to be getting a little better every week. So I think that he could count on Brees more than the stat line will suggest here.
Yeah, what do you think of Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, John, but I'd have to lean with Kenny on this matchup. I mean, like you guys have been saying, I think Calvin really could, end up being the keeper steal of the keeper draft, I guess, if you want to say that. I mean, he's looks like the number one over there. I mean, Chris McCaffrey got the bulk of the work, and San Fran is awesome. And I mean, looking at John, I think John has a really good team too. But as far as this week goes, I mean, Deshaun Watson didn't look all that great last week. Brees Hall, really tough matchup. Even the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I know going back to my matchup, I'm playing Dak, which I'm excited about because I don't think there's going to be a lot of points in that game. So I don't see Dak putting up a lot of points. I don't see CD putting up a lot of points. So yeah, I think I really like what Kenny's got going. I mean, Brandon Ayuk too. I mean, that's a couple 49ers, but I guess if you're gonna be relying on one team, San Fran's probably a good one to bet on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at my match for the week here. I'm looking at Ducky and Shane. Both of them lost last week. Both of them are normally regular season powerhouses, I'll say. And it's not looking great for Shane again. I know he has Josh Allen. He took him away from Kyle here this year, but and has a pretty decent team, except he's playing Deion Jackson. I don't know if you knew that yet, that Deion Jackson is not good at football anymore. But let's see. I like in both teams. I like Roquan Smith a lot. On Ducky's team, I like Kenneth Walker, obviously, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown. I think I'm gonna have to give that to Ducky here. And Tyler Lockett, I think does not have a concussion anymore. I think he's probably gonna play, but it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I mean, AJ Brown not doing well, I think really impacts it. I think that this projection for Jamal Williams is over optimistic. And so I mean, Tyler Lockett's coming back from an injury. I do think I'm actually calling Shane here, as much as I hate to do that. I think Josh Allen's going to have a big bounce back week. Pat Freiermuth is even though they're projected identically, I'd be much more willing to count on Pat Freiermuth than Njoku. And so, yeah, I think he has him kind of slightly out-edged at most of the positions I see here.
Yeah, looking at it too. I mean, like you said, Shane's going to win. It's going to be on the back of Josh Allen, and I think he'd have a huge bounce back week this week. I mean, same thing. I mean, Damian Pierce playing Indy. That's a really good matchup. He could find the end zone a couple times. Then I just looked over at Nick's team and I saw what's his face, the running back for the Titans there, Derrick Henry. We're playing the Chargers. Didn't the Chargers let up 250 rushing yards to Miami last week? So I think Nick's already off to a good start with Kirk Cousins going off on Thursday. So if he has that already, and then Henry goes and rushes for $150 and 2 touchdowns, and could be all the points that Nick needs. So I think it's gonna be close, but I think I'm leaning slightly towards Nick in a shootout here.
Yeah, Nick also has your favorite punter, Ryan Stonehouse.
That's true. Yeah, he's one of the few that I know at this point, although I'm sure I'll learn more in the future, including my own punter's name, who I cannot remember.
Michael Dixon.
Nice. I would point out that Deion Jackson, he's probably not going to get any points, not even maybe 7.3, but he does have Gabe Davis and Zach Moss on his bench, and either one of them could be a good play this week. So I am seeing that Shane's bench is pretty thin. He's going to have to really rework that with some good pickups this week.
A lot of potential.
And so, let's take it over to the free agent report, because the early weeks of the season, I think, are especially interesting for this. Roschon Johnson ended up being the biggest pickup of the week, which kind of surprises me. $16 for Roschon. I'm not sure exactly. I didn't see that game, so I'm not sure what Ducky saw in him, but 16 felt like overpaying to me.
Yeah, I actually had Roschon. I think I might have either drafted him in the final round or something like that and dropped him. He's a third running back. He definitely is talented. But I'm thinking that's probably a late season keeper that he's just in a stash on his bench there.
Yeah, I think it's more of a long play. I don't know who Nick has for his other running backs besides Derrick Henry, who we just mentioned. But Roshan is definitely like a hopefully by week 7 or 8, he's the starting guy over there.
And Nate, I saw you picked up Puka Nacua. We talked about that. He's obviously probably the most targeted wide receiver this week.
Yeah, I thought that $15 was a bargain in my opinion. I was pretty happy with the bid, given that I just out-edged you by $3, Kyle.
Yeah, I wanted him too.
I thought it was interesting that Kenny, as great as his team was, I thought it might have been a bit of a mistake to drop Elijah Mitchell at this point in the season, just because I think 1 week is too early to say on him. Although picking up for Josh Kelly wasn't the worst move. I did bid on Josh Kelly because I'm the manager of Eckler. He did get me there, but I picked Mitchell right up just in case there's an injury to McCaffrey.
It seemed interesting this week. Obviously I put a bid in on Nacua. I wanted to get him. But the fact that I didn't get him, I'm perfectly fine with, because it really felt like every year, like after week 1, there's like a stud running back, after an injury happens that hits the waiver wire, and it just really didn't seem like there was one of those this week. You can say Dobbins got hurt for the Ravens, but nobody really knows what's going to happen over there as far as their backups are concerned. So I feel like eventually at some point, there's going to be a huge injury, and a stud running back on the waiver wire is going to pop up, and I still have all of my money to spend on him. So
yeah, absolutely. Like you're talking about, Justice Hill scored 2 touchdowns last week. I don't think that's happening too much more often. And I know Gus Edwards, I think, is already rostered, but we don't know honestly who the starting running back going to be there.
yeah, who was the freaking guy last year after week 1 that it was you, Nate? You spent like $50 on him.
He's picked Jeff Wilson, I think.
Oh, Jeff Wilson,
$43 on him or something. Yeah.
That guy just didn't seem like to be there this week. So maybe we'll be in week 2.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Worth mid-tier Nick picking up Justice Hill for $3. I mean, getting somebody who's potentially a year-long starter or even just a timeshare, $3, that's a deal. And I did also taking a stab at last week's number 1 tight end, Hunter Henry. My tight end goosed me, so hopefully Hunter Henry will give me a 5 points maybe.
And I didn't even think about getting a new tight end because I have Mark Andrews coming off the bench from last week, but I got Rashee Rice. I picked him up, or I put the bid in immediately when he scored a touchdown last Thursday night, thinking he's going to be the number 1 behind Travis Kelce. And I'm just, fingers crossed that's going to be a good pick moving forward here.
Yeah, and now just before we let you go tonight, Kyle, curious what football games do you look forward to tomorrow?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, because I have no idea. Do you have a list of like? Can you list them
Yeah,
off?
I mean, we got Seahawks Lions gonna be high scoring. We got Jets Cowboys gonna be low scoring probably. We got Chiefs Jaguars. I don't know if you like any of those matchups, or obviously Sunday Night Football with the Pats.
Yeah, I mean, definitely excited for the Pats to see what they can do against Miami. Being a Tyreek Hill owner, I'm still hoping it can be a high scoring game. Maybe the Pats can win 35-31 or something. I mean, Jets Cowboys could be a comedy of errors. I mean, I don't know if you guys were watching Monday Night Football last week, but that was like equally parts sad and hilarious at the same time. I didn't know what to do. So I'm curious to see how Zach Wilson does against a Dallas defense that seemed like they had like 20 sacks last week. So
yeah, no, the Jets
for the sheer
matchup is
comedy, that could be the one.
Gonna be real interesting to watch, because I found myself honestly rooting for Zach Wilson throughout Monday night last week, and that's not something I ever thought I'd say. But I think my pick this week is going to be the Seahawks Lions. The last 2 times they played, they were both over 80 points scored in the games, and is fingers crossed that they're going to be over that again this week. I know a lot of people have a lot of fantasy stake in both teams there.
Yeah, I'm also really interested in the Colts and the Texans game, just because it's 2 new backs, both 1 game in. I really liked, at least I didn't see the game, but the stat line impressed me from Anthony Richardson. And so maybe it's going to be a low scoring slog fest, but I'm interested to see if one of those two quarterbacks emerges and has a good game.
I think I'm remembering too. Isn't there Jaguars Chiefs tomorrow? It's a rematch of a playoff game last year, and
Yeah.
Lawrence
Yeah.
scores against Mahomes, and I think Kelsey's probably going to be back, so it'll be a good one.
Kelsey, Chris Jones back. Yeah, see if the Chiefs can not start 0-2 and see if the Jaguars can start 0-2. Both of those would be incredible things to happen there.
We'll see if Kelsey can keep his head in the game now that we all know he's dating Taylor Swift.
He finds a lot of blank space on the field, so it makes sense.
A lot of blank space other places too, yeah. But no, lucky guy. I'm just jealous there.
He watches the All Feeling 22 film, right?
Mm.
No, it's gonna be a fun week. But thanks for joining us, Kyle. And we will best of luck this week because we're not playing you. And yeah, we'll see you all next week for another episode.
Okay, guys, appreciate it.